Last night, I had a dream. I dreamt of my dad who passed away 3 years ago. In the dream, he looked just as I remembered him, kind and warm, but with a serious look on his face. He pointed at a dress hanging in my closet and said, "Honey, don't wear that dress he gave you." The dress was a beautiful emerald green slip dress, a birthday gift from my fiance Mark. I asked my dad why, but he just shook his head sadly and faded away. I woke up with a start, my heart pounding. The dream felt so real, so vivid. I glanced at my closet, where the green dress was hanging. It was just a dream, I told myself. Just my mind playing tricks on me. Mark and I had been together for 5 years, engaged for the last one. He was, I thought, the perfect man, charming, successful, and deeply in love with me. We were planning our wedding, and my best friend, Sarah, was my maid of honor. The three of us were inseparable. Sarah was my rock, the sister I never had. We shared everything, from our deepest secrets to our silliest dreams. Looking back, maybe we shared a little too much. The dream lingered in my mind all day. That evening, Mark was taking me out to celebrate our anniversary. He'd made reservations at a fancy restaurant. As I was getting ready, my eyes kept drifting to the green dress. My dad's voice echoed in my head. "Don't wear that dress." It was irrational, I knew, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. I chose a different dress instead, a classic black one. When Mark arrived, he looked a little disappointed. "I was hoping you'd wear the green one," he said. "It looks stunning on you." I just smiled and said I wasn't in the mood for green. At dinner, Mark seemed distracted. He kept checking his phone, smiling at the screen. I asked who he was texting, and he brushed it off, saying it was just work. But his eyes told a different story. A knot of suspicion started to form in my stomach. This wasn't the attentive, loving Mark one knew. Something was off. The anniversary dinner that was supposed to be romantic felt tense and awkward. We went home early, the unspoken questions hanging in the air between us. The next few weeks were a blur of fake smiles and forced conversations. Mark became more distant or secretive. He started working late, had business trips on weekends, and his phone was suddenly password protected and never left his side. My friends told me I was being paranoid, that wedding planning was stressful for everyone. Even Sarah said I was overthinking things. "Mark adores you," she'd say. "You're just getting cold feet." I wanted to believe her, I really did. But the dream about my dad, coupled with Mark's strange behavior, felt like a warning I couldn't ignore. My dad had always been a great judge of character. He liked Mark at first, but I remember him once saying, "He's smooth, almost too smooth." "Just be careful, honey." At the time, I dismissed it as a father being overprotective. Now his words haunted me. Driven by a gut feeling I could no longer suppress, I decided to do something I never thought I would. I put a location tracker on Mark's car. I felt guilty and ashamed, like I was betraying his trust. But the truth is, I felt he had already betrayed mine. A few days later, Mark told me he had to go on an overnight business trip to a city a few hours away. He packed a small bag, kissed me goodbye, and told me he'd miss me. As soon as he left, I opened the tracking app. My heart sank as I watched the little dot representing his car. It wasn't heading towards the highway. It was moving across town, towards a familiar neighborhood. It stopped at an address I knew all too well. It was Sarah's apartment building. My world shattered. It couldn't be, not Sarah, not my best friend. My hands were shaking as I stared at the screen. Maybe he was just dropping something off for her. Maybe there was a simple, innocent explanation. I tried calling Sarah, but her phone went straight to voicemail. I called Mark, and his did the same. Denial is a powerful thing, but the evidence was staring me in the face. The man I was going to marry was at my best friend's apartment, lying about a business trip. The betrayal was so immense, it felt like a physical blow. I didn't confront them. Not yet. The shock gave way to a cold, chilling rage. All the little things started to click into place. The shared glances, the inside jokes I wasn't a part of, Sarah's constant praise of Mark, his recent distance. They had been playing me for a fool. I felt sick. How long had this been going on? Right under my nose with my supposed best friend. The person I confided in about my doubts was the very cause of them. That night, I couldn't sleep. I just sat in the dark, the silence of our apartment deafening. And then I remembered the green dress. The gift from Mark. I walked to the closet and took it out. It was a beautiful dress made of delicate silk. As I ran my fingers over the fabric, I noticed something odd about the hem. It seemed thicker, slightly uneven. On a hunch, I found a small pair of scissors and carefully snipped a few threads. Inside the hem, tucked away so cleverly I would never have found it, was a tiny electronic device. A listening device, a bug. The air left my lungs. He hadn't just been cheating on me, he had been spying on me. All those private conversations, my calls with my family, my tearful confessions to Sarah, they had heard it all. This wasn't just a simple affair. This was a calculated, cruel deception. My dad's dream wasn't just a warning about the affair. It was a warning about the dress itself. He was trying to protect me from something far more sinister. The bug was the key. They wanted to know what I knew. They were toying with me, enjoying my confusion and pain. That's when the grief turned into something else. It turned into a plan. They thought I was a naive, heartbroken victim. They were about to find out just how wrong they were. I didn't cry anymore. I started thinking, if they wanted to play a game, I would play it better. My dad didn't raise a fool. He raised a fighter. And they had just started a war with the wrong woman. My first move was to play the part they expected. The next day, when Mark came home, I acted like the loving, unsuspecting fancy. I apologized for being distant and blamed it on wedding stress. He bought it completely, hugging me and telling me how much he loved me. It made my skin crawl. I also called Sarah and tearfully confessed my fears about Mark, just as I had before. I could almost hear the smug satisfaction in her voice as she reassured me, "Oh, honey, you have nothing to worry about." All the while, the little bug in the green dress was sitting on my dresser, broadcasting my performance. But while I was playing the fool for them, I was busy behind the scenes. I hired a private investigator. I needed proof. Hard, undeniable proof that would leave them with nowhere to hide. I also started digging into Mark's finances. It was surprisingly easy. He was so arrogant he never thought I'd look. I discovered he wasn't just a cheater, he was a con artist. He had been slowly draining a joint savings account we had set up for our future house, funneling the money into an offshore account. And Sarah was in on it. I found transfers to her name, labeled as consulting fees. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning to take my money and disappear after the wedding. The private investigator delivered the gold mine. Photos, videos, recordings. Mark and Sarah at romantic dinners, checking into hotels, kissing passionately in his car. The evidence was irrefutable and devastating. Seeing the images of my fiancé and my best friend together, so happy and carefree in their betrayal, solidified my resolve. There would be no tearful confrontation. There would be no screaming matches. My revenge would be cold, calculated, and public. The wedding was 3 weeks away. I continued with the preparations as if nothing was wrong. I went to my dress fittings, finalized the catering, and sent out the final reminders. Mark and Sarah were getting more and more confident, more brazen. They thought they had me completely fooled. The bug in the green dress was my secret weapon. I'd leave it on my nightstand and talk to my mom on the phone, going on and on about how excited I was for the wedding and how I couldn't wait to be Mrs. Mark Thompson. I knew they were listening, laughing at me. Let them laugh. The bigger the pride, the harder the fall. The day of the wedding arrived. It was a beautiful, sunny day. The venue was stunning, filled with flowers and all our friends and family. I put on my beautiful white gown, feeling a strange sense of calm. This wasn't my wedding day, it was my judgment day. Sarah was by my side, fluffing my dress and telling me how beautiful I looked. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. She squeezed my hand and said, "Are you ready?" I looked her right in the eye and smiled. More than you know. I walked down the aisle on the arm of my uncle. All eyes were on me. I saw Mark standing at the altar, a triumphant smile on his face. He thought he had won. He saw a beautiful bride walking toward her future. I saw a liar and a thief walking toward his downfall. When I reached the altar, the officiant began the ceremony. He spoke of love, trust, and fidelity. I had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep from laughing. When it came time for the vows, the officiant turned to Mark. Mark took my hands, looked into my eyes, and delivered a speech so full of lies, it was almost poetic. He spoke of destiny, of how I was his soulmate, his everything. The guests sighed and dabbed their eyes. I just stood there, my expression unreadable. Then it was my turn. The officiant said, "And now, do you have vows you'd like to share?" I smiled sweetly and said, "I do." I turned to face our guests. "I want to thank you all for coming here today to celebrate with us. It means the world." Then I turned back to Mark. My smile vanished. "But I think there's been a misunderstanding. There will be no wedding today." A confused murmur rippled through the crowd. Mark's face paled. "What are you talking about?" He whispered, his grip on my hands tightening. I pulled my hands away. "Instead of vows," I said, my voice ringing loud and clear, "I'd like to share a short film I've prepared. On cue." A massive screen I had secretly arranged to be set up behind the altar descended from the ceiling. The lights dimmed. The first image that flashed on the screen was a photo of Mark and Sarah kissing. The crowd gasped. The film rolled, showing a montage of the private investigators' evidence. Photos of them at hotels. Text messages full of their secret plans and cruel jokes about me. Financial records showing the money transfers from our joint account to his offshore account, and then to Sarah. And for the grand finale, I played an audio recording. It was a conversation they'd had, captured by a new, more powerful listening device I'd planted in Mark's car. It was them, laughing about how stupid I was, and planning their luxurious life together with my money after the wedding. The silence in the room was absolute, broken only by Sarah's mother sobbing. Sarah stood frozen, her face ashen. Mark looked like he'd seen a ghost. I turned to him, my voice dripping with ice. "And as for the green dress you wanted me to wear so badly," I said, holding up the tiny bug for everyone to see, "I found your little listening device. You thought you were so clever." I then looked at Sarah. "And you, my maid of honor, my sister. I hope it was worth it." She finally broke, stumbling backward, covering her face in shame. Mark tried to grab my arm, sputtering denials, but it was too late. Two police officers, who I had arranged to be waiting discreetly at the back, started walking down the aisle. "Mark Thompson," one of them said, "you're under arrest for fraud." They cuffed him right there at the altar. As they led him away, past the shocked faces of our friends and family, our eyes met one last time. There was no love, no regret, just the cold, hard reality of his defeat. Sarah was escorted out by her parents, utterly disgraced. The party was over. I stood there for a moment, in my white dress, in the ruins of my old life. I didn't feel sadness, I felt free, I felt powerful. I thought of my dad, and I knew he would be proud. His warning from the other side hadn't just saved me from a bad marriage. It had given me the strength to reclaim my life and serve justice. It wasn't the wedding day I ever imagined, but it was the most satisfying day of my life. The story spread like wildfire, a cautionary tale of betrayal and retribution, and me. I sold the wedding dress, took back my money, and started over, stronger and wiser than ever before. Sometimes the end of one story is just the beginning of a much better one. Thanks for watching.